Oh, hello. Good afternoon. This is Willie Cartwright with From Save to Sane, the latest episode of From Save to Sane. Those of you who are waiting for Taisha, I know you're sad, upset. I think she's going to join us later. She says she is, so if things work out, then she will join us. So don't be disappointed. I'm still here. I'll do my best, but absolutely, I understand why you would miss Taisha. She is wonderful. So I like to always begin by thanking her for everything that she's done to help me and continue to help me in this process. I think she's actually on in the chat room right now. So Taisha, if you can hear me, let me know that everything sounds good in the chat room there. Make sure you guys can hear me. But yeah, so like I said before, Taisha should be joining us at some point. But until then, we will carry on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad that all of you are here today. Um, those of you who are joining, please send me your questions and comments, and we'll make this a open discussion. We'll try to tackle all of the things that we need to tackle. We'll make it fun and informative. So let's get going. So, so today's topic is going to be salvation. Salvation is a scam. Biblical salvation is a scam. And I wanted to talk about this subject because obviously it is foundational to the Christian faith, the Christian religion that I came from. It is absolutely everything um, that the Christian faith is about. It's about salvation. And as I come on here every week or every other week and talk to you guys, my main concern is that we're able to look at this thing called religion and specifically Christianity from a logical standpoint, from a standpoint of reason and using the brains that we have to kind of look at things logically. And as I think about salvation, it is one of the most illogical parts of religion, and in this case, Christianity, that there is. And this is not derogatory toward Christians because, as you guys know, I was a Christian for 40 years and I certainly believed in the concept of salvation. But as you break it apart and think about it, if you really look at it, it is really an illogical concept. That's why I said that it is really a scam. And we'll get into all of that, why I think it's a scam and everything that goes along with salvation. So let's begin by basically just kind of defining what biblical salvation is. It is basically the concept of being saved from being saved by God from the consequences of your sins. Now, and that is loaded. That is a loaded. First of all, as a non-believer, the first thing for me is okay. Let's define God. What God? Which God? Is there actually a God? The second piece to that is what is a sin? Who determines it? I know this is largely a rhetorical question, but I do understand how we got sin, but does it make sense what sin is, right? And then the final piece is what is this whole salvation thing? The process. How are we saved as human beings from from the consequences of sin? So, what are the consequences of sin and not being saved? Obviously, it's going to hell. Or for those progressive Christians out there who understand how asinine the whole concept of the biblical hell is, they will tell you that it's really about being separated from God. So both are, asinine to me, but yeah. So we will look at both of those. Christine Williams, thank you for joining. D Cheney, thank you for joining. Good evening to everyone. I hope it's evening or morning, depending on where you are, afternoon, wherever you are. Hello to everyone. So again, salvation. Let's look into it. Is it something that's actually logical? First of all, let's go back and let's kind of figure out how we got here with salvation. So as the story goes in Genesis, Adam and Eve were the only two or the first two humans on the planet. Every time I talk about this, it's just funny to me because we really talking about this like it really happened. How you doing, Sharon? I'm doing well. Thank you, Sharon. But anyway, Adam and Eve were the first two people on the planet. God so-called created Adam, and then he put Adam to sleep and took a rib from Adam, and he made Eve, which is in itself is just weird. But we've never seen another person born or created or come from another person's rib. But that's the story. And as Adam and Eve were hanging out in the Garden of Eden, a serpent. And even when I have these debates with people, some people say, well, the serpent represented the devil, or the serpent really was the devil. I even heard people say that it wasn't the devil at all, it was just a serpent. However, it was a talking serpent. Another red flag in this story, but we'll continue. Talking serpent convinced Eve to eat an apple from the tree of good and evil or the tree of knowledge, depending on what version you're reading. Whatever it was a tree that was forbidding by God for them to take from. And because of this, Adam and Eve became cursed by God. It was kicked out of the Garden of Eve. They recognized their own nakedness, which I don't know if that's why that's really a bad thing. But anyway, they nakedness is normal. It's normal. But anyways, it was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And not only were they cursed, but every generation after him were cursed, right? So we all are cursed from birth, and the generations before us and the generations after us until the end of time. So we're all cursed because Adam and Eve was convinced by this serpent to do something that God told them not to do. And so because of that, God got angry, which is another red flag, but we'll continue. God got angry and said, you're cursed, you're out of the Garden of Eden. And then God had second thoughts and said, well, maybe I'll create a way for them to still be able to spend eternity with me and not be banished to this evil place called hell. So first of all, God, and let's look at this logically, because this is really what this is about. All jokes aside, I created this podcast to reach out to people regarding religion. And the most important thing to me is that we're able to critically think through this stuff called religion. So let's look at this from a critical standpoint. God created human beings, man and woman, and he created us flawed, or the ability to become flawed. Instead of just creating us totally perfect when we could never be flawed. He created us, right? Okay. Then he created the entity or the being that came along to convince us to do what we're not supposed to do. And all-knowing, all-powerful God did this. And after we did what he knew, or after Adam and Eve did what he knew they were going to do, he became angry. How do you become angry about something that you already know is going to happen? Something that you already put in place is going to happen, but you become angry. So God became angry of that. Secondly, sin is strictly a terminology used in religion, in this case, Christianity. It's not about necessarily doing stuff that's right or wrong or that's harmful, although some sins are harmful to us. But there are a lot of sins that are not necessarily harmful to us. Eating shrimp, wearing mixed fabrics, growing your hair too long, cutting your hair, all those type of things. So God created this category of things that we cannot do, a long laundry list of things that we cannot do, even though we're prone to do, and it's natural for us to do as human beings, the way that he supposedly created us. But he created this long laundry list of things that we cannot do, and he named them things sin. And so if you violate any of these, then you're in trouble. You go into this infernal place called hell. So he created us flawed. He created the things that made us do the things that we weren't supposed to do. He created these things called sin. He got angry because we did what he knew that we would do, kicked us out of Eve. And then he created a loophole, the first loophole. Now, here's the thing that people don't think about. This is an all-perfect God. Understand this. God's first attempt at fixing us or correcting us was actually the Great Flood. So he failed miserably at that because the Great Flood was supposed to wash all the bad people away, all the sins away, and start over with this family of 8. Even though the family of 8, they were severely flawed. Noah and his family had all types of issues. But these are the 8 people that he chose to survive and create, restart mankind, which again, red flag, don't make a whole lot of sense. So that's his first attempt. And so after Noah and his family and more people became part of the earth and all of this, he still had the same problems. We still were sinful in his eyesight. We still did normal, natural things that human beings do. And so he failed. An all-powerful, perfect God, he failed in cleansing us. So his second attempt was to reincarnate himself, come down to heaven and be born to a virgin who was with another man. And it depends on how you read the Bible. They were either married or, she was Joseph's girlfriend. But the fact of the matter is that Mary had no choice in the situation. Mary was somewhere between the ages of 12 and 14 when God or the Holy Spirit, which is one and the same if you believe in the Trinity, impregnated her. So here's a woman who had no choice but to become impregnated by God so that she could have God reincarnated as his son, Jesus, right? So that's the second attempt at fixing it. So Jesus comes along, lives 30 years, 33 years, and then he is crucified. And so the crucifixion and his subsequent resurrection is the second attempt at cleansing us, but it gives us that salvation. We're saved through his death and his resurrection. But here's the problem with that. Nothing changes. We still do the same activities and the same actions. We still violate God's laws, the sins, including the 10 Commandments and every other sin in the Bible. We still do that. So nothing changes with us. So now, how do we become saved? So now we have to, according to the way I was taught and raised, in order for you to become saved, the first thing you have to do is to acknowledge and believe that Jesus, God, however you phrase it, is your savior. I have a problem with that, but that's part of it. Secondly, you have to ask for forgiveness. And in some denominations, you have to be baptized. And so I was raised in a denomination where you had to ask for forgiveness, acknowledge that God is your savior, and be baptized, right? And so that's how you are saved, even though your actions can remain the same. This is why Christians in particular got it easy, because they can do anything they want to do as long as they go and ask for forgiveness. Because some people believe that once you're saved, you are always saved. So you can pretty much do anything you want to, and then God will forgive you, ask for forgiveness. But the caveat to that is what they tell you is that you don't know when your last day is here or when God is coming back for you. So you better act good the whole time. But that's impossible because we are human beings living a human existence, doing human things, normal things, right? So second attempt of saving us was through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But we still do the same thing. Here are the questions that I have for anyone that's listening. Why did God just, number one, why couldn't he just create us perfect where there was no such thing as called sin? Number two, why did he have to create a category of sins anyway? Why not, if he's not going to create us perfect, just create us and whatever we do is fine with the exception of things that may harm us or harm others. And I'm good with that. Thirdly, why did he just wipe out all of those desires that we may have to do the things that he don't want us to do? You're right. Or four, why did he just, give us a clean slate, a blanket, and just said, you're all forgiven without this whole process and ceremony of reincarnating myself as my son down to be birthed through a virgin of 12, 13, or 14 years old who's already with a man, Imagine, I'm seeing these kind of things on social media, but imagine those of you listening, guys, imagine you're dating someone and let's just go with the first. She tells you that she's a virgin. You guys are dating and you guys decided to wait and you're waiting and you're being the honorable man and she's being the honorable woman. And then she come to you one day and say, hey, I'm pregnant. God got me pregnant. Wow. Uh, I don't know a man alive that would fall for that. So this virgin birth of Mary has to be one, if not one, it is the greatest scam ever played. So basically, maybe Mary was messing around and got pregnant, and so she had to tell. I'm being kind of tongue in cheek, but wouldn't that be that's a distinct possibility that could have happened. I like so think about it. She was messing around, didn't want Joseph to find out, got pregnant, so she tells Joseph that God got her pregnant, right? She's familiar with some of the stories because think about the stories of the Bible are not original. They're all taken from other older religions. So she knew a little bit about these stories. So she said she's pregnant with this Messiah, and he's going to be the Messiah. And her trying to avoid whatever repercussions from messing around with another man ends up being the greatest story and the greatest scam ever on the face of this planet. The whole Jesus story. Wouldn't that be something that's amazing? But anyway, again, that's tongue in cheek because I don't want Christians, hitting me up mad and angry about what I just said. But that's a possibility. So, um, so that is so that's where we are with this whole salvation thing. So so we're there, and as opposed to God just whitewashing everything and saying, okay, you got a clean slate, we can start over. Uh, let's everything is fine. You don't have to do this. And so one of the things I also want to talk about is just, I mean, this whole concept, if you really think about it, the whole concept of this whole salvation. And we hear about this from birth, and I'm reading some of the comments while I'm talking to you as well. D. Cheney, did God propose to you? I certainly not. I'm sure he did propose to Mary. And the stories are so out there. You don't know if Mary was already married, if because the in the trend, and that's another problem with the Bible itself is that through the translations, we're talking about 3 or 4 different languages: Greek, Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, whatever. We're talking about all the different languages, and then we're talking about the different versions of the Bible. Words get transposed and different meanings, and so we're not sure if the original meaning going back. And remember this too: we don't have the original Bible. We have copies of copies of copies of copies, but we don't have the original manuscript of the Bible, right? So we don't know what it really says, but through translation, we could have gotten it wrong. So we don't know if she was a virgin or she was just uh, his wife or his girlfriend, or I've heard they may have been engaged. But whatever it is, um, it is, it is, it is, it is divine rape. And I know that's harsh for people to hear, but Mary did not have a say in becoming pregnant, right? And I know it's the Holy Spirit, and there was no sexual activity per se. But and again, this is like talking about like a Harry Potter story. But anyway, it she got pregnant without her knowledge, and I'm assuming against her will. So but we kind of overlook that. Christians overlook that. Believers of the Bible overlook that whole little just a little small thing. But yeah, so I'm not sure about the whole proposal thing, D. Cheney. um, so again, all perfect, all knowing, could find a better way to do this whole salvation thing. So let's get deep into this whole salvation thing and why it presents a problem outside of just the story itself. So every time I think about this whole salvation thing, the first thing that comes to me, and again, we're applying logic to all of this, and I always talk about um, why Christianity is detrimental to us. And so in my book here, and I always pub it from Saved to Sane, my journey away from Christianity and why Christianity has been detrimental to the African American community. One of the things I talk about in this book is, in a sense, is salvation, but what it does to us. So imagine for birth being told that you are worthless, being told that you are born into sin and that you are a born sinner, and that the only thing that can save you is this God, this supernatural entity external to you. So you, without even knowing it, subconsciously you grow up, and in some people consciously, you grow up with this inferiority complex that you are not enough, and that you need saving from everything. And this philosophy translates into other parts of our life. Um, we look at those who are, and I go back, and we're some of us in the community are a little bit beyond this, but this is how we are being taught. So think about this: if you grew up as a kid in this country, an African American child in this country, and the greatest thing, the greatest entity that you see is an image of a white God. So you begin to associate everything that's good with this white being. And then you go to school, your teacher is white. The police officers you meet are white. You get a job and your boss is white. So then you begin to develop this reverence for white. And so you begin to believe that everything that's black or that's not white, in the case you are inferior or less than or subjugated to this thing that is white. And along with that, they tell you that you are nothing and that you're worthless and that you need saving. So saving from what is always my question. What are you saving me from? Um, and so that's one of the things that I talk about all the time that is detrimental. So we grow up with this inferiority complex, right? And unlike I say this all the time, African Americans, we for the most part try to live our lives through scriptures and the prism of the Bible and biblical scripture. So everything we do, there's a reference to God. So I don't care how bad we are. I don't care what we're doing. For the most part, collectively as a community, we live through that prism of biblical scripture, or we try to, more so than anybody. We have this kind of pious thing about us where we believe that the most important thing above everything else is our relationship with God and how we live our life in relationship to that relationship. And that causes some problems. And I mentioned that and I talk about that in the book. So now you have a inferiority complex. You think that you need saving from everything, and that translates into your real life and how you walk in your life and how you associate in your life and how you are willing, and not all, but a lot of us, how we are eager and willing to accept someone who don't look like us being our boss or our manager or our supervisor, as opposed to having somebody who looked like us being that boss or manager or supervisor. Because for so long we've been told that we're not worthy. So if you look in a mirror and what you see is not worthy, then every time you see someone that looks like you're going to believe that that person is not worthy. And so we don't think through this stuff logically enough about it. But that's one of the harms. And so our kids, they're growing up with this complex. You're not worthy. You need saving. You go through all of this stuff, and until you become aware of it, then you have to purposely try to fix it. And I'm just looking at some of the comments. Christine says, sounds like rape. Hey, that's what I say. But I'm trying not to get banned. I'm trying not to have so many people come at me. But I'm with you. D. Cheney said, I'm being facetious. What did you say earlier? Okay, between 1526 and 1619, white Europeans killed our adult ancestors while using slave Bible to brainwash children to obedience into obedient Christians. Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely what happened. And we have to be aware of that. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I've heard, and there are a number of really sad things that I've heard come out of the mouth of other African Americans, but I think this has to be in the top three. I've actually heard African Americans um, say that they are thankful for slavery because without slavery we wouldn't know Jesus. And so that is a ignorant comment. Not that the person is necessarily ignorant, but that is a comment coming from ignorance. That is a comment coming from people who are not aware of their heritage, where they come from, their ancestral home, and the things that were going on in Africa, in the countries in Africa prior to Islam and Christianity coming in. And it's just sad. And it is also a product of the propaganda and the things that Europeans have told us and taught us over the years, not just through school, but through social media, through television, through all those other platforms that we have. And so that is, and I'm trying to get a hold of being able to do all this stuff at the same time. I think Taisha's trying to get in. And so I'm going to do my best to let her in. Oh,
Hey,
there
how
we
you doing?
I'm great. So as you guys can see, the beautiful, wonderful Taisha has joined us. So we are excited. We are happy. I know Taisha has been listening in the chat. We were seeing the chats. But Taisha, we're talking about salvation
Hmm.
and salvation being a scam.
Yes.
And I know you being a former Christian like I am, you understand the whole salvation thing. But if you could tell us, just give us your whole impression of the whole salvation thing and how it affected you being a Christian.
I had to sit here and ponder it. First of all, hi everybody. How's everybody doing? Greetings, Brother Willie. Thank you for having me here. I'm sorry I was late. I got a whole bunch of stuff going on, so I'm like, I need to be here. Great discussion so far. I'm tuning in. And yes, when you had sent me the link this morning, I'm like, what exactly is salvation? Because I brain dumped a lot about the Bible and religion and stuff like that. So I had to go look it up. And I'm like, it really is nonsense. And as you said, it is a scam because it doesn't exist. It's like a feeling that people get. It's like putting on the magic lotion of God. It takes away the ash of evil, if that makes sense. And my experience with salvation, it gives people, especially I'm speaking of myself, it gave me like this false identity, this false confidence. I'm better than you. I have God's salvation. I have on the full armor. I'm invincible, which is not true because the ones who claim I have salvation, I have the closest walk with God. They still bad stuff still happen to them. Stuff still happens to the flesh. They money be messed up, and I've actually made a Facebook post about this, even outside of Christianity, but the spiritual magical ones, where they claim that they're this spiritual being, this witch or this magical person, but they always broke. And so I'm like, I'm kind of, you know, there's obvious line of demarcation. I'm on the other side of that, but I'm like, okay, you just a bum. So you're no different than anyone else. So yeah, it's really a scam, like you said.
Yeah, and so other things, other harms of it is that it takes away a lot of our accountability, us being accountable and responsible for our actions.
Hmm.
Worried about being saved, and as long as I'm saved and all this other stuff, it makes
Safe
you
from what?
well, and I never
You
get well,
I
I
heard
guess
you
the
ask that, like, safe from what? And it's like you still are going to go through problems that you're going to go through, like everybody else who's on this planet. The only difference is, some people have the resources to fix their problems. Some people have the right people in their life to fix their problems. Some people live away from a lot of problems, but you still gonna have some problems, whether you was dipped in
absolutely.
the water, the olive oil put on your forehead or not.
Absolutely. And so in the pragmatic sense, that whole salvation is saving from hell because you sin. So if we break this down, it's almost like a pharmaceutical company being the pharmaceutical company is God, right?
Mm-hmm.
God created this plague, this dreaded disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's sin, okay? And then God or the pharmaceutical company also created the medicine for this dreaded disease. And so in the
Right.
case of God and sin, that is the whole salvation thing. So you have a God that created the sickness being sin, and then he created a so-called
The
a
remedy, the
solution
cure.
or medicine or remedy for this sickness that he created, as opposed to just not creating the sickness to begin with, right? And so we jump through hoops to say that we're saved. I mean, that is the most important thing. I mean, I think about this. Whenever you guys go, and I don't know when the last time you guys been to a funeral, and I try to avoid them for a number of reasons. But every funeral that I've ever gone to, I don't care how bad the person was. The first way that anybody's ever described is this way, especially if it's a black funeral. He was a man of God. He was saved. This dude could be a mass rapist. I mean, he could have killed 14 people, but the way he's always described, the way we always describe is he's a God-fearing man and he was saved. And so that it's like that cancels out everything else that this person has done in his life as long as he or she is saved. And I
tell
think
people, I'm sorry, I tell people when you look at someone's obituary and their major accomplishment is they gave their life to God at a young age, or they spent their life serving God, that's a wasted life. They ain't got nothing to brag on. They ain't accomplished nothing. They wasted their time here on this planet. And that's one thing that I noticed as well. My sister, she's safe now, but I could talk about this. We had this conversation where the people that live next door to her, what was this bad lady. I'll say bad lady. I'm a guest on someone else's channel. This bad lady.
You can say it. You can say it.
This bad lady who gave birth to these bad children. And her son, he broke into my sister's home. And he broke into everybody's house on the street. And my sister, she eventually moved away. And she had called me at work one day. We had a 3-hour delay. I was in Washington when she called me. And she said, guess what? The dude that broke into my house, he tried to break into the old man's house behind me, and he shot and killed him. Yeah. I'm like, that's what's up. So the mama, she all in the newspapers and stuff talking about, oh, my son was so good and he loved to go fishing and he got kids. He took care of his kids and he loved the Lord. He was a freaking thief. He was a criminal. He was the lowest of the lowest. You let the spawn of Satan come from between your legs. You are an evil person. You are just evil. And that's what made me mad. I actually wanted to do a video on this some years ago. Like, the evilest people, you know, they get to have that moment when they die, like, oh, they're all good. No, not at all. You know? So that's one thing right there. When you was talking about a funeral, I rarely go, and like right now in DC is National Police Week, and it was some officers who I'm like, this person was a dirtbag, and you know, I had to fold the flag and carry the coffin and stuff like that. But I'm like, some people did some really nasty things to people and got away with it. So yeah, just because a person dies does not erase all of the evil that you did on this planet.
Yep, absolutely. D. Cheney said it's a scare tactic, hell, coronavirus, nuclear bombs, etc. It is the biggest scare tactic in Christianity. It's the whole, are you saved? Are you not saved? If you're not saved, you're going to hell. Again, I always try to make this channel and what we do, we always try to give good information, whether it be a book to read, whether it be information to help you go through your journey. And so thank you. One of the things that I will suggest to everybody that's going through this journey, and especially if you were a Christian or you're still a Christian, you having second thoughts, do your research on the origins of the biblical hell and how we got this concept of the biblical hell. So once you find out that the biblical hell is not a real thing and how we got it, then that will free you up, because the Christian church depends on you being afraid of going to hell or this so-called separation from God. But for the most part, it's really about going to hell. So if you can diffuse that by understanding and learning the origins and where this biblical hell came from, then you will not be held hostage by the Christian church saying you need to go to church, you need to be saved so that you don't go to hell. because we're all going to be humans and we all got to do. There are way too many things that the Bible says you can't do for anyone to be perfect. I mean, that just don't make any sense. And a lot of the things that they tell you can't do it's unnatural. It is unnatural to tell a human being that they need to have a piece of paper and be married to someone before they can have sex. I know that's not a popular thing. That is totally insane. We are natural. We have those urges. It is natural that we are sexually active and sexually attracted to people, and we act on those impulses. That should not be a sin. Having premarital sex or fornication, because that would be fornication. Fornication, that's one of those things that, like, why is that? That makes no sense. But when you look at the sins, and you understand when the Bible was written and by whom the Bible was written, it makes sense, right? Because it was written by men who were doing everything they could to control women and everything else around them. And if you really look at the Bible, you look at it with your third eye or from a critical standpoint, you will understand why a lot of stuff is in the Bible. It has nothing to do with the written of the word of so-called God. It was all about control. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Taisha.
Oh, not a problem. I'm so happy that you brought that up, because one thing that was different when I came here to Georgia and got my Georgia driver's license, the DMV, or here's the DDS, the clerk asked me, was I married? And I'm like, no. But I didn't ask her, like, why when it comes to a driver's license, because I've never been asked, and I've been licensed across the country. And that was the first time I was ever asked if I was married at the time of getting a driver's license. But when you look at marriage and you look at, things like that, it's in regards to two businesses coming together, your assets, and protecting the legacy. And although, yes, people go to church to get married because it's a business, that's primarily what it is, but it's a promise between each other. But just having your marriage certificate and having it filed, that's just legal protections for you, your estate, your descendants, and things like that. When it comes to like in the Bible, I don't think anybody, exchange, a certificate or went to go ask permission or any of that, but that doesn't discredit, the society that we're in now, while we are working people who are accumulating things and stuff like that. When you were talking about hell, I was thinking about a quote from the great Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was saying, to quote him loosely, he was like, hell is all around you, okay? If you don't have any heat, you cold as hell. If you ain't got no AC, you're hot as hell. If you're angry, you mad as hell. You got no food, you're hungry as hell. So hell is all around us. It's not in the ground. You don't have to go there, go to hell and back. And quite frankly, if all someone has to do is get baptized or confess their sins and they get to go to heaven with those who have been doing good their whole life, not, so-called breaking the commandments and things like that, then send me to hell. I don't want to be bothered with all them up there. Hell sounds like a good place to me. I'm from the Midwest and I don't like the snow, so should I go to hell? Okay, it's 80-some degrees outside right now. Hell, I've survived 2-3 now Georgia summers. I'll go ahead and go to hell.
Yeah. So Eva Boutique Emporium. I gotta say that right. I had a question. She asked about books to read in regards to the biblical hell origins. First of all, if you go to the Old Testament, and they talk about a place called, I think it's pronounced Sheol, which basically was a place outside of the city where they burned bodies, or they buried bodies or burned bodies. That was the original concept of where they got hell from, but that's not the biblical hell. Also, so the actual, that's where it started, but the image that we have now, the whole burning in the flames and all that kind of stuff, that actually came from Dante's Inferno. If you read the book Dante's Inferno, that's where that image came from. And if you go all the way back, if you also, some of you might remember this guy, but he was known for other things. But if you listen to Reverend Ike, the old Reverend Ike from the 70s or 80s, right? So people got caught up a lot in this stuff because he was like the original pastor that talked about getting rich and all those other kind of stuff, right? Yeah, prosperity goes. But if you're able to sit that aside What he talked about was there is no hell and there's no heaven, and God is you and inside of you. So he's one
Mhm.
of the first people to openly come out and talk about that. But there are other books. But if you do your research on the origins of hell, Dante's Inferno will come up. There are some other books that talk about how we got it. There is I cannot remember. There is uh, uh, a priest. There was a number of well-known priests who actually came out and said that hell was a made-up constraint,
Mhm.
man-made constraint, and that the biblical hell is non-existent. But if you track the whole religion thing, how we got it, begin with the Old Testament, and I think the word is show. But because hell is not this, I don't think hell is mentioned in the Old Testament. I might be mistaken. But I don't think it's mentioned in the Old Testament. But begin there. Again, Dante's Inferno is another one. But just Google how we got hell from a secular standpoint. Don't fall into because you'll follow one of these Christian pages and they'll tell
Mhm.
you the same things that you read in the Bible. But no, so uh, once you're able to get past that, then that frees you up because now
Mhm.
you can't be held hostage by this church saying you need us because you don't want to go to hell and you don't want to burn in hell. And people are like they're so afraid to go to hell and all this other stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm like Taisha. If here, this is what I equate it to. My wife is literally the sweetest person that I've ever met. I'm not just saying that because she's my wife, but first of all, she got to be sweet to deal with me. But she is absolutely wonderful, right? She is no longer
Beautiful
a believer.
too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But she is no longer a believer. She kind of follows the Buddhist faith or whatever, but she's no longer a believer. Um, Mother Teresa, you know her history. Everybody know who Mother Teresa is, and there's been other people, right? If you tell me that people like that, because they're not believers or they're not saved, that they're going to be in hell, but the slave owner who confessed 5 days before he died and said, "I'm a Christian and Jesus is my Savior," that those type people would be in heaven, then I'm with Taisha. I don't want to be in heaven. I said this in the book. I said, if the slave master and the slaves are worshiping or praying to the same God, who prayers are getting answered? Why would you want to be in a place with people who oppress you or mass murderers simply because they believed in God or believed in Jesus as their savior, God as their savior? But yet there are people out here who, for the most part, have never done anything harmful and have been really, really great people and have been great contributors to society. But because these individuals did fall in reverence to this Jesus God, they're going to hell. That sounds like a narcissistic control freak to me if you really look at that. Someone said this yesterday, and I heard somebody said this. Um, and I'll give him credit to. I listened to this guy called Matthew Delahanty, the Atheist Experience. He was a former Christian. He was actually he's about to be a minister as well. He deconverted, and he's been doing this for 20, 25 years or so. So it's great. He's kind of cutthroat. He doesn't pull any punches. He goes hard. But anyway, he said, and I almost lost the train of thought. But he said that oh God, I lost my train of thought because I was looking at the comments. Book or show. Actually, Taisha, it's just I can't remember. It's in the Old Testament. I'm not sure what book of the Bible is in the Old Testament, but it talked about show being the foundation for what we got as hell right now. And
Yeah, I
what it really
googled it. It
did
says
you Google?
in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word "show" refers to the grave or the abode of the dead. Psalms 88:3 and
Yeah.
88:5. Through much of the Old Testament period, it was believed there was all one place, whether human or animal, whether righteous or wicked. And it mentions Psalms 49 and Ecclesiastes 9, 2 and 3.
Yep. And so that's where we got the initial origin of hell from. And so remember that even with the Old Testament, that those things, the books of the Old Testament, the writings of the Old Testaments are not original, even in themselves. They came from other much older religions, Sumerian religion, Mesopotamian religion, Egyptian religions. And so a lot of that stuff is just rehashed information. And I think I
Mhm.
said this a long time ago, maybe in one of the first couple of podcasts we have. Take notice of why all of the Abrahamic religions and even some of the other religions all kind of took place in the same area of the world. There is no way that people can live in the same parts of the world and travel amongst each other and live amongst each other and not incorporate the belief systems and practices of other people. It's no way. It's not humanly possible. So Christianity, like every other religion, borrowed from other religions to kind of makeshift everything that they have, and then they repackaged it and presented it to us, and we believe that it's the greatest thing in the world, and we fall for it. So yeah, so do a little research on the whole hell thing. Once you clear your mind of burning in hell, because just think about the concept of it. And I asked somebody this one day. Those of you who are parents, because this is really what this is about. Those of you who are parents, is there anything that your child could do to you if you had the power that would make you condemn them to a eternal hell, burning hell? I've yet to be the parent that will say, yeah, if he or she did that, it's something that's, even if your child says, you know what, I'm grown now, you're no longer my mother, I'm never going to acknowledge you ever again, I'm gone. Because what you have for that child is unconditional love. It's no way you can't physically, emotionally condemn that child to an eternal hell. You just can't. You're not capable as a human being. So that tells me one or two things. Either this God is not real, or we as human beings are more moral than the God that we're serving. That's really
Neither would I sit back and watch some folks have my child carry a heavy ass cross, nail them on there, stick a sword through his side, and I don't intervene with divine intervention and stop that and tear the whole club up.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Makes zero sense.
Yeah. So think about that. So how can this so-called all-loving God, who's supposed to love you more so than anybody else, God's supposed to love you more than you love your kids. It is all-knowing, all-powerful, but for people who his kids who he's supposedly created, if they don't believe that he's their savior, then they get to burn in hell for eternity. I mean, it makes zero sense to me.
That's an abusive relationship.
It's a very abusive relationship. And so when you have these discussions with Christians, they do mental gymnastics trying to make it make sense. And then they end up just accepting where it's God. So who am I to question God? And that's the consequences of da da da. But if they were able to sit down and think logically through this, it wouldn't make sense. Either God is a monster, highly immoral, or just don't exist, and all this stuff is made up. And all this stuff is made up, in my opinion. The stuff is made up. There is no proof of it. And the God character, is an immoral, narcissistic bully. Right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And for us to pledge this undying love, without even trying to figure out if it's true or not, if it makes sense, because we're born into this, we're indoctrinated into this, and we become so afraid to leave or question it, it holds us hostage. And it's sad. But what I am happy to see is that people are starting to come out. If you guys are on TikTok, and maybe because I'm in that kind of space or whatever, I see more and more people that look like us who are coming out and speaking against Christianity and religion and the whole God and Jesus thing, and I love it. And the believers who come on and make comments, they're getting blasted. They have no ground to stand on because you can't argue logic. They end with, okay, it's faith. It's based on faith.
Just believe. Just
believe. Right. So
no question.
So I think the next one I would probably talk about faith, because I had a deep conversation with a couple of guys over Clubhouse the other night about.
Ooh, why did you invite me?
I you know what? And this is weird because I've been on Clubhouse a few times, but I got a call. I got like one of these little hand waves.
Okay.
On my phone, right? So I hit it, and audio like through the speakers. A friend of mine, a fraternity brother of mine, who is really religious, but he don't consider himself a Christian anymore. He said Christianity is associated with white people. So I said, okay, brother. But anyway, he just started speaking to me. Hey, Willie, what's going on? I said, how you doing, brother? And I said, how are we able to speak just like this without me having my
Oh,
headphones on, without being on it in a clubhouse room. It was just like a regular
private
phone.
chat, yeah.
But other people were able to hear the phone call as well. So
Oh,
we're
okay.
talking. I'm not on headphones. We're just talking just like this, and I'm holding the phone. And another guy comes on, and he's a doctor. I don't know what he has his PhD in, but he's a doctor of something. But devoutly religious, devout Christian, and we had this 2-hour conversation about faith and why I think that the Big Bang and evolution and natural selection is more plausible than this whole creation story. And for them it boiled down to faith. But like, well, you have faith too. I said no. I said an example would be I don't. I no. I asked one of the guys. I said, when you get up in the morning, do you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I have faith that I'm a man? No, you don't, because you already know that. You
Mhm.
don't.
You
You
have
don't need faith.
evidence.
You have evidence. You don't need faith if you have evidence. Same thing when I
Right.
say, if I sit down in a chair, I don't have faith that the chair is going to hold me. I believe I have a reasonable expectation that the chair is going to hold me because I have evidence that that chair has held me before and has held people who are much larger than I am. I said, you
Mhm.
have none of that when it comes to your faith or your belief in God. All you have is anecdotal evidence, emotion, and experiences that you
Mhm.
attribute to this God, or you interpret these experiences to completely a certain way, which is biased from the beginning because you begin with the premise that this God or Jesus is real. And so
Right.
everything you say goes from there up, as opposed to, first of all, proving that your God or Jesus is real and then going from there. So you begin with a biased premise to start with. And what you do after that is just look for things to confirm your already existing bias. So anything that happens to you is almost the whole thing with salvation. Um, is we people look for stuff to
It's a
confirm their
placebo.
bias. It is a placebo. It's
Placebo.
and here's the thing. So one of the things that we talk about as non-believers, if we were ever able to wave a magic wand and get rid of religion, there would be some things that religion provide that people need.
Mhm.
And it is a placebo for certain people, whether it be the emotional, whether it be I feel like I need to make, you hear people say, I'm nothing without God, or God is my strength, or I don't, life is not worth living, or they'll ask you where your morality comes from. And so I had a good discussion last night again with some other people Monday night about the whole morality thing and us not needing God or an entity or deity for
Mhm.
morality. And so they said, well, where would you get it from? I said, stop acting like Christians or believers have great morality. I said, in order to be a member of the KKK, you had to be a Christian,
Jesus
right?
saves.
I said,
Yep.
I'm willing to bet that 9.5 out of 10 slave owners in the South were Christians.
They were doing it in the name of
Exactly.
Christ.
I said, so don't come with that. And I said, we have a history. And so the question was, well, we still have wars and this and that and other. I said, for the existence of this country and this world, for the most part, especially this country, let's just deal with this country. For the existence of this country, 400 years, we've been a country which is a high majority Christian countries.
God
I
bless
said,
America and God we
exactly.
trust.
I say, if you want to see something, do some research and research the most peaceful countries and the best countries to live in, and then do the same search on the most violent countries. The most peaceful countries are the most secular countries, the countries that don't have a religion or don't practice a religion in full. And the most violent countries are those countries that have a religion and practice a religion in full and are very devout to their religion. I said, so that in itself should tell you, if you talk about fictional world, maybe we should begin with maybe getting rid of religion. Religion is responsible for a lot of the wars, a lot of the fighting. At the end of the day, it's always greed, but religion acts as a second reason, or as an excuse. But even without the wars, look at what religion do to people and do to families. You look at the laws we have, Roe versus Wade. You look at things like, you look at people. And I'm not pro-abortion. I'm just pro-choice. I'm pro. Why? How the hell am I, a 53-year-old man, going to
Mhm.
sit and legislate to a woman what she can do with her body? That's not my position. That's not my place. That's not what I should do. So I'm pro women having a choice to do what they want to do with their bodies. But because of religious reasons or the excuse that's given, It's really a control thing. But the excuse that they give, they use the Bible. But other things, stem cell research. We can't do stem cell research because it's not biblical. I mean, all kind of stuff. Not drinking
Mhm.
on Sundays, the way we treat people, the gay community, how they get treated, how we get treated, interracial marriages, all that stuff is the objections to all that stuff has been religiously based and biblically based. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've seen kids get kicked out of families because their family can't take the fact that they're gay, right, or that they're a lesbian or whatever. So all kind of stuff. So if we can begin with eliminating religion, that might be a great start to helping us. Um, so a couple of more comments. Let's see. Religion causes division within the family. Absolutely. In my book, the first chapter, the very first thing I talk about is the division between my aunt and my my mother. My aunt was a Jehovah Witness, and my mother was devout, solid, strong Southern Baptist, and how that did it. But I've read stories, and I know people who have been literally uh, uh, kicked out of their family. I mean, just totally abandoned because they were gay and they went against their religion or whatever. I think I told the story before. I met a guy who said that he's gay, um, and he was a non-believer. And he said that it was actually harder coming out as a non-believer because I mean, even as much
I
as
can
we,
believe it. I can
yeah,
definitely believe it. But then also too, from my experience, like I know of people who I'll just keep them anonymous like that, for their privacy. When they told their family members that they were being sexually abused as a child, their excuse was to hide them in the church, not seek out proper therapy, not go and prosecute the offender, not save that person from the environment where the abuse was happening. So my other side to that, is that the church and faith is used to cover up a lot of illegal crimes. Like I'm finally seeing on TV, there's commercials looking for victims of clergy abuse. So the church is used in these different ways to prey upon victims as well. And it may come out later, in some kind of abnormal, sexual relation and things like that. And so, yeah, we have to call out those who hide crimes and abuse and injustices in the house of the Lord.
yeah, that is such a serious topic to me because I've known people who've gone through that. It happens way too frequently in our community that a deacon or a pastor or a church member or somebody who's revered in the community through the church uh, takes advantage of our kids and sexually abuses them or mentally or even physically abuse our kids.
Even adults, even
And
like, widows,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
people with addictions,
Yeah,
because I've heard
yeah,
stories of,
yeah,
people who have an addiction, they're looking for that salvation and be saved only to be
yep.
victimized all over again.
Yep. And so the church do a job of hiding those individuals. There was a prominent minister here in Atlanta, who, if I said his name, everybody would know. But when stuff started coming out about him, I remember talking to a guy, a friend of mine who was a member of his church, and this guy would tell me that this minister was allegedly abusing young boys.
Mhm.
And me and this guy, grown man, we had a conversation. He said, yeah, he said, I would be in the barbershop and these guys would come in, these young guys would come in and say, such and such bought me this car or such and such got me this
Mm,
apartment. And when you dig deeper, you will find out that most of these boys came from single parent homes. And the
mhm.
mother was reaching out to what she thought was an entity, a church, and the church people. And in this case, even a pastor who she thought would be a positive influence on these kids, on these young men, right? And
Mhm.
it ended up taking advantage of these young men, sexually
Wow.
abusing these young men. And that
Mm,
happens in so many of our churches across the country. And we sweep it up under the rug. We hide it. We're told that
mm.
it's God to take care of, or he made a mistake, or he slipped up, or whatever it is. If it was any other person in any other environment, that
There we
person
go.
would be prosecuted. We would file charges. We would do the whole 9 yards. Eva said, I tried to leave the church at 15 and my parents threatened to kick me out the house. If you have more kahootas than I do, because I would have never thought about, even if I was at that level of intelligence or enlightenment, I should say. Uh, I I know I wouldn't have got kicked out of the house. I would have been killed. My mother would have probably killed me. It would have been the worst thing ever if I said, I'm leaving the church. I'm no longer a Christian at that age. So it happens all the time. I read stories. I'm on these forums. People send me information. I get all kind of stuff where people are saying, um, I tried to leave the church, or as a child, I was going to do this, and I'm no longer a Christian. But my parents, they have disowned me. They literally
Mhm.
kicked me out of the house. I'm on the street. I'm homeless. I had to move in with a grandmother. I had to move in with an uncle or a best friend or
Mm.
another family. So it's sad. So I think and we can kind of start to wrap up. But one of the sad things about this whole thing is that as a community, we don't look at this critical enough to really think about all of the harm that religion has caused and the harm that it causes in our community, especially.
Wow.
We pick out, we like to cherry pick, we like to pick out the good things. Part of it is that we don't recognize some of the long term damage that being in a
Mhm.
religion does. We don't recognize some of the subconscious damage that it does, and the stuff that's out front, the overt damage that it does. We find a way to excuse it or hide it, as you said, Taisha. But if we were able to, as a community, to say, let's really look at this critically and let's look at what this does to us collectively from a mind standpoint, from a mindset standpoint. Let's look at what it does to us physically. Let's look at what it does to us from a standpoint of draining our resources, whether it be our talents, whether it be our finances. Let's look at what it does to our community, breaking up our community. There are people in different denominations that don't talk to each other, don't speak to each other. There are people who are
Right.
gay and lesbian who family won't deal with them. There's people who have denounced the church who now no longer have a place to go. There are people who've lost their jobs and their way of life because they're no longer Christians or came out. And as I always say, I know so many people who want to come out, who want to denounce Christianity, who want to leave the church, who want to begin on this journey, but they can't because they're afraid of all the stuff that we just mentioned, all the stuff that we just talked about, of these
Mhm.
things happening to them. Everything from a spouse leaving them to not having a relationship with their family, and all that. And I'm blessed. The only person who my mother's passed away, she was really uh, upset, and that would have been an issue or started to be an issue.
Mhm.
But everybody else in my family, at least the people that matters. My sister, she's devout. She's like, well, whatever you do, just leave me alone. My niece and nephew are young; they're 24 and 30. But my niece called me the other day and said she had a conversation with a young lady who was a witch, and she said she tried to talk to her mother. Check this out. She tried to talk to her mother, and her mother was like, "Don't you talk to nobody. Don't you talk to her. She's a witch. She's going to make you condemn you to. You're going to go to hell. That's
What
bad.
was
Please
Solomon?
molest their money, huh? Right?
What was Solomon? What was Jesus? Didn't Jesus
Exactly.
spit in the mud and restore
Yeah.
eyesight?
Yeah. And so my niece was like, but I remember all the things that you were saying to me, Uncle. And I decided that I wanted to listen to what she had to say. And I
Mhm.
learned a lot of things. And I said, just keep your mind open. I said, she's not trying to convert you. That's
Mhm.
not gonna be the thing for you. I said, but it's
Right.
nothing wrong with knowledge. It's nothing wrong
Right.
with hearing the other
Listening.
side and getting it from the first hand instead of all the nonsense that you hear about witches. Get her perspective of why she is.
Mhm.
Y'all can be good friends. I don't mean you got to be a witch or she's going to convert to Christianity. So
Right.
I was very proud of my niece. But she called me. She said, I had to call you because I couldn't find anybody to talk, but I wanted to call you,
Right.
let you
That's
know
so
that you had
sweet.
to come. So it was cool, right? So yeah, so those are the things. Somebody said, well, therapy is also sure to Christianity. That's a whole other thing. I think Taisha and we're gonna do a whole segment on therapy, and why we need
Yes.
therapy and why we haven't been able to get therapy and why we believe as a collective that therapy is praying and let Jesus fix it. And it
Mhm.
doesn't work. But yeah, Taisha, you got anything else that you want to add before we close this out?
Wow. I'm glad that you brought this up because like when it rains, it rains on all of us. I go outside, it doesn't just skip me or it doesn't skip you because we have this salvation. It rains on all of us. When SHIT happens, it happens to all of us. So yes, anyone who's, on that verge, like, okay, I'm torn between, my traditional beliefs, but I'm seeing evidence that wants me to go this way. Don't think that just, coming over here with us cool kids because we have cookies and stuff over here, it's going to take away your protection, that you're vulnerable. One thing I used to hear a lot is God gonna get you. You need to get your life right with the Lord, or if something happened, like a relationship did not work out because you ain't right with God, so don't let those things deter you from seeking mental freedom, breaking those mental chains, and just getting that weight off your back, and living a fulfilling life, connecting with other people. Because I've noticed when I meet someone new or get into a conversation, I'm really able to enjoy what that person is bringing to my life at that moment, their achievements, their energy, versus what do you believe? What church do you go to? Or are you saved? We don't think about any of that. We're just enjoying each other as human beings on this planet who just happen to cross paths, and we hope to leave each other better than how we found each other. So that's all I have. And I thank you for inviting me tonight. This was a great topic, and more to come.
So what I want to do to end, and because this is really about helping people, I'm going to start giving some suggestions from my library of books. I'm
Mhm.
taking I'm giving you two today from my Audible list of books that I've listened to or read. These are I have some of these I have a hard copy, but some of these are Audible because I like to listen while I'm working out or doing some other stuff. So the first one, for those of you who are looking for something to read, it's called God: The Failed Hypothesis. It's by Victor Stenger, Stenger. That is a really, really good book. And then another one would be God. I think it's something else to that. It's God. Uh, it's by Dan Barker. And Dan is the president of Freedom for Religion Foundation. He was a former pastor, minister. He also, if you go to my channel from Save the Sane, he did an interview with me, and I think we posted that on it as well. So Dan is a good
That's
guy.
what's up.
So that's one of the books that he wrote on that one. So yeah, so those two, and then every week that we do this, I'll try to give a couple of books. A lot of them will be in that same genre of religion. Some of it will be in evolution, because it kind of go hand in hand. If you really understand our existence, how we got here, understanding evolution, then you can use that information to debunk creation, the creation story, and those who believe that the earth was created in 6 days, and all that kind of stuff. So I like to study those together. But there's probably 80 books here in my Audible, and then I have a stack of books that
Wow.
have manual books. So we'll do that. Taisha will also have some books, I'm sure, available. But take a look at those. Um,
Question real quick. What was the title of Dan Barker's book again? Was it
it's
Freedom
just
from
it's
Religion?
no, it's God. No, Dan Barker is okay. God, the most unpleasant character in all of fiction.
Got it. Thank you.
So it's Dan Barker. Yeah. So he does a really good job with that book, just laying out things. He's a Bible expert, so he does a really good job of laying out things in the Bible that talks about all the things that God did. So yeah, so pick up those two books. I also have some books from African American writers, Anthony Penn and Dr. Cone, and a couple other books. So we'll definitely make sure we kind of get a mixture of books in there. But all of it is good. Read and then do some research on your own as well. There are tons, and I think as well, I'll also give some of the YouTube channels that I listen to get information from. Like I said earlier, I mentioned earlier, Matt Dillahunty, the Atheist Experience. What he does is kind of what we're doing now, but he bring guests on. He let guests call in. They're
Mhm.
always believers, and they try to tell him why he should be a believer, and he
Wow.
debunks all of it. So this guy's been doing this for 25
Definitely
years or so.
got to check that out.
Yeah, yes, you got to check it out. It's called the Atheist Experience.
Okay.
And so Mandisa Thomas was a guest on his show a couple of times
Mhm.
as well. So it's good. So other than that, just let me tell you how you guys can get in contact with me. First of all, go to my YouTube channel if you haven't, or invite friends to go there and subscribe. Please, please, please. It's Save to Sane. Save to Sane. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's WC O'Neal, Oneal. Taisha, I did get that domain this morning, so thank you so much. Y'all, Taisha is making me do the right thing. So my wife thought we had already had it, but she checked it, so we did get it. We did get it today, so we got that. Taisha also is telling me that I need to change my Facebook page to match what I'm doing here, so we eventually will do that. My TikTok is Save to Sane as well. Please check out that. That has a lot of material on there about what we're talking about, this kind of stuff. That's really what my TikTok is all about. There's nothing else on there but this type of stuff. At my IG, Willie Cartwright 1906 Instagram, a lot of the stuff on there is about this as well, this kind of stuff as well. And so that's where I am. I am a professional speaker. I do speak for a fee. If you guys have an organization that you would like to have me speak at, whether it be live or virtual, contact me. You can email me, or you can contact me through this forum here, or you can email me at WOCartwright. That's real easy. WOCartwright at yahoo.com. And we can talk about where, when, the fee and all of that. But we can talk about the book, or we can talk about other issues. If you have an organization, or you got a group of people, or if you guys just want to do a what do they call it? A book review, a book study on this book, because I know a group that's trying to do that. They're going to invite me out, so they want to do that. So that'd be awesome as well. But yeah, so that's what we do. And you can pick up the book From Saved to Sane: My Journey Away from Christianity on Amazon. Please pick it up on Amazon. Those of you who picked the book up or who will pick the book up in the future, my wife keeps telling me this. I need to ask you guys to do a review once you've read the book for me. Please, please, please. That helps a lot. Thank you. Anything else? Any other comments? Any other questions in the comment section? Like and share. Yep. That is it for me, Taisha. Thank you so much. Guys, I have to say thank you to Taisha for the things that she's doing to help me is priceless. I mean, I can't put a price on it. I can't not thank her enough. I appreciate her.
You're so welcome.
So I am always in debt to her. So anything that she needs, but thank you so much. And follow her. Go to her pages. Taisha, you can give them your information, but please support her, please.
Thank you. I am Taisha Essex across the board. IG, Snapchat. My son won't teach me how to use Snapchat. He said old people should just stay on Facebook. So Facebook, I have 2 pages over there, kind of like my personal page where Facebook doesn't charge pay for views. Have my like page. Also have my self-defense brand, Tiemonix, Tiemonix, where you get all your self-defense gear. Make sure you take a note of the discount code on the banner. Use it. And that's pretty much it. Just happy to be here. And I just want to say thank you for keeping me busy for the past couple of weeks, because I was just like a bum. So if you follow me on my social media, you would have seen my good news. And yes, I'm so happy.
Okay, so we can talk about that, right?
Yes, I did the announcement.
Okay, all right. So, but you can let me answer this question, then you can make the announcement. Sharon F. signed copy. You can cash out me $19.99 at cash $ Willie Cartwright 1906 with your address as well, and we will get the book out to you. I'm putting it in the chat right now. That's the cash app. Yep, $19.99. Yep, $19.99. I'm trying to type fast. Yep. Taisha has a sign. See, so we will send you, get you out a signed copy. $19.99. Cash out me with your address as well. We sent some out the other day. So going well. Taisha, tell us the great news.
I want to say, as much as Brother Willie said he's thankful for me, I'm thankful of him, because all this time I would have not uploaded anything to YouTube. I would have kind of sort of quit YouTube. But I just made my announcement the other day. I came all the way down here to Georgia, met, a wonderful man who was waiting to meet me and make me his wife and the mother of his children. So we are expecting. So what we were talking about, Brother Willie and I was kind of making that transition to kind of put this kind of content on his channel, because I really want to document my maternity journey, my pregnancy, and just really go with empowered Black maternal health, I've been connecting with a lot of people, in secret, but now I'm ready to share that with everyone and really, show this side of taking control and being empowered for our maternal health and also our family. So I'm so excited. So thank you for keeping me busy on times where we kind of skipped a week. That's when,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the first trimester was kind of getting to me. I needed a nap or I wasn't feeling well. Right now, I'm still having a little bit of the food aversions where I have my cup because I got this weird taste in my mouth. So I'm like, hormones and stuff. So thank you for keeping me busy and keeping me focused. And yes, I'm happy to share this with everyone today. And I'll do like a big reveal on my channel as well, but my content will mainly be geared towards empowered Black maternal health for the next
Absolutely.
for the rest of the year.
Rest of the year. And so that's why I mean we couldn't say what it was until you make the announcement, but
Yes,
that's
thank you
why
for
we
that respect. Thank you. But
no
it's
no
just
problem
out
no problem at all. So that's why we kind of had this be. I needed to be on my own channel anyway because this is all that I talk about. And Taisha she talks about a plethora of things, but she's kind of held my hand through the whole process to get me going, and
there.
so
No.
we're able to do that, and so I will be doing some of these by myself while she's doing what she's doing. She will still be a part of this from time to time
Yes.
whenever she feels like coming, and that'd be fantastic, more than welcome. So we'll do that. I will make I'll probably make a big announcement in the coming weeks that may change up how frequent we do this, but at a minimum, we'll try to do this down the line. At worst, it'll be every other week. But that'll be due to some information, good news that I have. So we'll make that announcement as we get closer
Good.
to those dates. But for the time being, we're going to try to do this every week,
Yes, and
unless
this is
something
great too because
happens.
I still have some topics on my mind. Like you
Great.
inspired me when I was in the chat last week or the week before, why I left Christianity Part Two, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what, that's a good idea because my first one I was like real kind. I was new to YouTube, didn't want to say cuss words and being kind, and didn't want people in the comments. But I'm like, you know what, I've had enough. It's time for the uncut version, so I might have to get it off my chest before I start the maternity content.
And it kind of drives you because I think early
Mhm.
on when we talk about the stages you go through, and I went through the
Right.
whole first of all, I went through the whole anger stage where I wasn't mad at God or anybody. Like, I was just like, oh, I've been led down this path for so long and
Mhm.
nobody told me the truth. And then I went through the whole um okay, I'm trying to understand because I was once a Christian, blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And now you get to the point where we do these, and I get comments on this, and you see the comments as well. But then I do my TikTok, and believers are
Right.
coming in there with all kind of crazy stuff. And so now I'm back to the point of the real Willie, which would be uncensored, uncut, is going to eventually be where we stay.
Right.
And I think it's good too because people who've read the book, who see me on social media, they said that it's kind of I'm really harsh on social media. But then they read the
That is
book and
good.
they said the book is really balanced. And so I said, well, I can't stay mad angry with y'all for 2 years. And that's how long it took
Mhm.
me to write the book. But but anyway, but I want to on these platforms here. Um, I want to go back to being more. I think it's better when you are real with people
Mhm.
and we don't necessarily bite our tongue at every
Right.
every angle because the people that come at us, the believers that come at us, and you've had this as well.
Mhm.
It's crazy. They say all kind of stuff. I mean, they wish all kind of things on us. It's really, and so we a lot
Like
of
on
times we.
some run tell that
Oh
screenshot
yeah, oh
instead
yeah,
of
oh
for them to
it's
go
it's
tell on you. I'm like, why are you
yeah,
telling on me? Like,
it's
okay, the
crazy.
internet is paid by Taisha Essex. I posted what I posted on his phone that's paid by Taisha Essex. I'm good and goddamn grown.
That's
So
right.
who you
So
running to
we
go tell?
so we're gonna start giving them back a little bit more of the energy that they be giving us. And so please follow me on TikTok. My
I'll
TikTok
be there. I'm
audience has
gonna
really grown.
re-download the app so I
It
can
has
support
really
you over there.
oh you got to it has really grown. I did a real and this will be the last thing I say with time out. I did a real quick TikTok 3 minute and it wasn't I didn't expect much of it. It was about um
Do it now.
I forgot what it was, but it's the last video I did. But it really wasn't about much, I thought, and it just blew for me. It blew up. I mean, I got up until that point. The most views I had on one of my TikTok videos was about 2,700 or whatever. This shot up to over 3,000 in like 24
Wow.
hours because people were just like, oh, they had comments back and forth, left and right. oh, God is gonna get you. You're going to hell. And so it was great. So I think in a 24-hour period, I probably got 60 new TikTok subscribers just from that one video. So I'll be doing more. And so we're doing the same thing here. The subscriptions to my YouTube channel has picked up as well. So thank you for all of that.
Good.
So
shout out Sharon. I will connect you and Brother Willie, and also to thank you for my maternity support band. Thank you.
Thank everybody. Just Sharon,
thank you, Christine. Thank you for your compliment. D Cheney T. I saw him in the chat.
Yeah, he was in the chat. Let's see who else?
Yes. And everyone who is going to watch the replay, thank you so much. Eva, Boutique Emporium.
Boutique Emporium, thank you so much. D Cheney, everybody, those of you who are going to rewatch it, those of you who just listening and didn't make a comment, thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it. Invite others so we can grow this space and help out as many people as we can. And that is it for me. Taisha, anything else? And we're gone.
That is it. We will see you on the next video.
See you guys. Bye.